No Further Information, a podcast for crash test dummies and cops. Remember that song by the band Crash Test Dummies? The song? That song was good. It didn't get the credit it deserved. Although I was very confused by the lyrics in the story. Remember that part where he's like, she had birthmarks all over her body. They couldn't quite explain them. What the fuck is there to explain? They're fucking birthmarks. No one looks at that two-headed chick, you know, the one who recently got married, and goes, what happened there? This episode is for cops. Sorry for the hiatus. Got a lot going on. Everything's fine, just a lot going on in work and personal life. Without getting into too much detail, I am in school in addition to a full-time job, and it's finals week. I sound like a teenager, right? It's finals week. I really can't go to the sock hop. What is a sock hop anyway? All right, anyway. So sorry for the hiatus, and we have a one-off episode for you today. No guest. You still here? Okay. I want to talk about not being the guy. What does that mean? I'm not the guy. I'm not the guy. I'm a guy, but I'm not the guy. I came from a big family. There are actually 10 kids in my generation, including me. So 5 siblings from the preceding generation, and then 10 of us, and I'm the firstborn. Now you have to think, right? It's like, well, you know, firstborn Asian family, male, should be the exalted one, right? You figure it's like the Lion King, like, it's away, like they're holding me up above the cliff. But the problem is, my father, who you've heard me call a piece of shit many times on this show before, he's the black sheep of the family. He was a piece of shit then, and he's a piece of shit now. And so there's this weird thing where I was born out of wedlock. He wasn't married. He wasn't with my biological mother. I don't know if that somehow stigmatized me to become, like, not the guy. But I was kind of the outcast. Now, I'm not saying they loved me any less, but I just wasn't the guy. As it so happens, the second eldest in my generation, and I promise I'll move on from my stupid backstory, was the female daughter of the eldest uncle. He's the eldest child. And she was the guy, or the gal, I guess. So I wasn't the guy as a kid. I wasn't the celebrated one. I wasn't the sure as fuck wasn't the spoiled one. I grew up hard scrabble. We weren't poor, but we were damn fucking near it. Not a lower class, not even middle lower. Like if you could look at like middle class and lower class on a spectrum, we're like kind of like towards the end of the lower end. So, you know, I had a Super Nintendo. You know, I had a Game Boy. How fucking poor could we be, right? But at the same time, I remember cooking rice with honey to eat myself because no one was home. You know, I was a latchkey kid. You know, parents out fucking around. So I wasn't the guy. And Shaka, I know this is hard for you all who know me in real life to wrap your heads around, but I wasn't very good looking, like implying that I'm fucking good looking now, but I wasn't that great looking. In fact, one might even call me somewhat of a nerd. Goodness me. So I was the big fat fucking Asian nerd. And I say fat, but, you know, I'm fat now, but, you know, back then I was, 100 pounds soaking wet. Girls didn't like me. Guys didn't like me. Believe me, you know, I put some feelers out. So I wasn't the guy, you know, I wasn't the guy in high school. You know, no sort of popularity, clubs, nothing like that. And it's funny because one time my grandmother, she was like, look at your picture, you know, looking at my baby picture. She's like, you were so cute. What happened? And just like fucking looked at me. I'm like, I'm sitting right here, lady. Then moving on off to college, I sure as fuck wasn't the guy then. You know, I'm seeing guys, you know, fucking and, you know, I tried joining a fraternity one time. I couldn't scrape. I could shit you not. I couldn't scrape up the whatever the fuck it was, the $70 it was to join the fraternity. I had no social life. I wasn't the guy. And as I entered adulthood, I just saw sort of life happening around me. Can you identify with that? Like you're living, you have a job, you're working, but you just kind of see life happening around you. I wasn't a ladies' man or anything like that. But as I started getting older, I realized I could talk. I don't know what it is. Is it being from New York? Is it kind of like being coming up hard scrabble? I got robbed 3 times, and I don't mean burglarized. That's another thing that pisses me off, right? In movies, don't people say robbed all the time? He robbed our house. What, he put a fucking gun up at the front door and like, give me all your money? No, that's burglarized. No, I was literally robbed 3 times, as I was growing up as a kid. So I had a tough life. So I don't know if that made me more tough. Being out on my own, not really having a lot of parental guidance, certainly no male role model. So I had the gift of gab, one would say. So I talked my way into like jobs, talked my way into opportunities, talked my way out of sticky situations. So I wasn't imbued with like these gifts of like good looks or charisma or money. I was just a talker. I had to talk my way out of situations. At some point, I moved from New York here to Texas to chase some tail, as you've heard me talk about before. So I guess I had enough to talk some chick into letting me move in with her. And then when I came here, I realized I sure damn fuck wasn't the guy here. I didn't look like anybody here. I didn't sound like anybody here. And after 3 years of banging around in civilian jobs, I finally got on the job and I was sent to the academy. And I remember being in the academy and I wasn't the guy there, right? You had can you guys identify with this in every academy class? Just like college, right? In every academy class, there's the group of like, the guys are squared away and like fucking shine all their boots and they come in and they do 500 push-ups and they're like, sir, yes, sir. My fundamental duty is to safeguard lives and property. They have the fucking creed, the law enforcement creed tattooed in their fucking nutsack. Have I made that joke before? I think I said lower back tattoo before, right? Sorry if I recycle some of the material. I'm a little rusty. I wasn't the good-looking one. I had a guy in my academy class, like literally like have sex with 2 different girls in the fucking class. That wasn't me. I wasn't the smart one. I wasn't like some exceptional cop or anything like that and knew the penal code in and out. I think I literally passed the T-Code exam, the state, it was oh, by the way, it used to be called, I'm not kidding, it used to be called TCLEOS or TCLOS, Texas Commission on Law Enforcement Officer Standards and Education. And there's always this debate, right? Is it TCLEOS, which is, I guess, technically how you should be pronouncing it, or TCLOS if you weren't a fucking douchebag. But I wasn't the guy then. I wasn't smart. I wasn't good looking. I wasn't popular. I think one time, one of my fellow recruits was like, Bob, no man's an island. Like, but I'm from Queens. It's like stupid, right? I thought that was a pretty funny joke. Then I got on the job. And I wasn't the guy then. I thought I was the guy because they were hiring this new Asian guy who was from New York and like was gonna wow everybody. I wasn't the guy. I was a disappointment because I had a mouth on me. I was getting complained on. I was getting written up. I'm not the guy now. I'm not the guy in my class. I told you I'm taking classes. I'm not the guy. No one gives 2 flying fucks that you were a fucking cop. That's why I don't tell anybody. Nobody in my class knows I was on the job. And nobody cares because shut up, go do your job. Who is the guy for you? Who's the guy or gal at your department? The good looking, they parade them on their social media accounts. You've heard me complain about this before. Who's your guy? Who's the guy that never gets in trouble despite doing some of the same things you did or worse? Who always has the boss's ear or the chief's ear? Who's the guy where you're from? Because you're not it. I know for goddamn sure I wasn't it. So I've never been the guy. I'm a guy. I'm a guy who did what I was supposed to do so that the job could function. So that when you called 911, someone would come. And you could depend on me to effectively investigate your case, find the bad guy, etc., etc. And so when I tell you about not being the guy and having the gift of gab, I've been thinking about it a lot during this hiatus. And I finally, maybe, I don't know, hit upon what I think might have been my appeal to DWI enforcement. Because I was a good fucking DWI cop. I was patient. I had the technical expertise. I could write like a motherfucker. I was organized with my paperwork. You're not the guy until someone makes you the guy. And that status is only temporary. And when you become a DWI, I'm going to use air quotes, guru, when you become a DWI enforcement guy, when you become a DWI enforcement hound, when you go looking for DWIs, you're the guy for 40 minutes or however long it takes. I remember countless DWIs where I would show up and everybody would be looking to me or looking to what I was doing. All eyes on me. EMS and FD and the victim's family. And I was the guy for, I said 45, but, for 32 minutes while I'm doing SFSTs and calling the shots and, hey, go get that and go talk to that guy. And, you do the toe slip and inventory the car while I supervise. Okay, look, inventory looks good. No dope, no drugs, no guns. I was the guy for a fleeting moment. Then I would put the AP in the car, head to wherever I was going, and then finish out the rest of my night, 2 hours of paperwork. And then I was no longer the guy. Then a DWI crash would come out, and I'd be the guy for just another second, and then no more. And then I'd go to an intoxication assault. This is a DWI where someone has been hurt, serious bodily injury, or someone's on their way to the hospital and has suffered bodily injury. Or I'd go to a DWI child or DWI with a minor. So, sorry, DWI child is when you have a kid in the car. DWI child or minor, I'm using the word DWI with the word minor. That's incorrect. I'm using it incorrectly. It's DUI minor. It's a lower offense if you're under 21 and you have any detectable amount of alcohol in your system. But if you're a minor under 21, you can go for the full big DWI that adults go for. I say big, Class B misdemeanor. Anyway, I was the guy for a fleeting moment. In hindsight, 15 years later, I started thinking about well, is that maybe what draws you to DWIs? Is that, were you selfish? Were you just kind of seeking that glory? I don't know. What did it get me? Missed appointments, missed family commitments. The worst thing for a night shift officer to do is to finish their shift and then leave the building and the sun's up oh God, what's that glowing orb in the sky? Hours, right? Countless days, blood, guns, drugs, warrants, that all the stuff that comes with the DWI, processing and swearing before a judge and occasionally testifying on a motion to suppress. So what, for all my alleged, I'm seeking these accolades of being the guy, for all of that, alleged motivations, selfish motivations, what did it really get me? I'm a guy who sits here and complains into a microphone that no one gives two flying fucks about. I think I still have 18 subscribers. And, I don't have any more hair, at least not where it counts. Bank account's not any bigger because I'm a DWI guy. And penis still, hold on one second. Yep, still same size. Still the same size. All right, so if we are to abandon that theory for just a moment, then ask myself, Well, why do DWIs? Why are DWIs important? Why are they more important than other realms of law enforcement? They're not. I was just a DWI guy. Yeah, I did other things, and I did them well. But why are DWIs so important? Well, ladies and gentlemen, non-cops, I'm going to let you in on a little secret. DWIs suck fucking penis. They suck hard gigantic whale penis. So imagine like a blue whale, right? It's proportionate, right? Even like a blue whale with a small dick, his dick is like the size of a fucking small boat, right? So it sucks a gigantic blue whale penis. Think of like if like there's like a blue whale who was a porn star, and like that kind of like porn whale penis. It sucks gigantic porn star blue whale porn star penis. And why? Well, all the things I said, right? All the pains in the ass that come with it, the shit, the piss, the blood, the sweat. And I mean literal shit, piss, blood, and sweat. You know, fighting them and chasing DWIs like vehicle pursuits. And you have to spend a lot of time on paperwork. Even as good as I was, there was still a lot of paperwork. Especially in a department that doesn't give two shits about DWIs. It almost makes the process more difficult for you. I won't get into the specifics, but, you know, not taking advantage of certain programs and not, utilizing available resources, kind of having to reinvent the wheel because, hey, we just never did DWIs before, whatever. And so DWIs are a colossal pain in the ass. In Texas, it's only a misdemeanor, and it's one level higher than a summons. So in Texas, the lowest level offense is Class C misdemeanor. Straight up DWI is just a Class B. Now, yes, there are what we call enhancements, right, where it bumps it up to an either Class A or a felony because of kid in the car, high blood alcohol content, hurt somebody, blah blah blah. All right, second or more, third or more, so on and so forth. And people complain about, you have to do the SFSTs perfectly or you'll get torn up on the stand. And, asshole attorney who cross-examines you and makes you feel this small and blah, 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 blah. And then my favorite is, well, they just pleaded out anyway. So Texas does this weird thing in some counties where they turn DWIs it's still a Class B misdemeanor. It's still one level above a summons. But what they do is they have the defendant plea to an equivocal offense. It's called obstructing highway or roadway. Still a Class B misdemeanor, but now there's no DWI on your record. So the edict is, well, I did all that work for nothing. So lots and lots of reasons why DWIs are such a colossal pain in the fucking asshole. Remember, it's like a gigantic, what did I say? Blue whale porn star penis? Where did I come up with this shit? I'll tell you why I did it. And I think I promised you this story, so it's time for me to deliver. It's important to me. It was important to me because there was a name behind it. Every police officer in Texas now, and even back then, would have to take a DWI course in the academy called an SFST practitioner course. This is the 3-day course that certifies you to administer the roadside sobriety test called the standardized field sobriety test. And during my 3-day practitioner course, I had 2 cops come out and they came and talked to our class. And they stood up in front of us and I remember the PowerPoint being shown behind them. The room was dark and they were backlit by the PowerPoint presentation, on the white sheet. And so think about the PowerPoint just kind of being like blasted on their faces, so to speak. And so they're backlit, and it's kind of hard to see them because, the light from the projector is shining into their faces. And I remember these 2 big white guys, they had their guns and their shields. They were plain clothes. They weren't in uniform or anything. And they were standing there, and they were introducing themselves to us, and they were our instructors. And they were from a police department for the city of Grapevine, Texas. Grapevine, Texas. Exactly how it sounds. Grapevine, Texas. And I remember these 2 big, burly, gigantic, big dudes, right? talk about one of their fallen officers. And his name was Darren Glenn Medlin. Darren Medlin. And Darren Medlin was a city cop for the city of Grapevine. And he had just stopped a vehicle on June 12th, 2004, when a vehicle struck him and killed him. When this vehicle struck and killed him, it launched him 100 feet into the grass, where he landed and died. The defendant was intoxicated, and he was arrested and charged, and he was sentenced to prison. At the time, Darren Medlin was on the job for 8 years. He was 34 when he was murdered, and at the time he was killed, he was married. He had 2 children, 2 stepchildren, and mother, sister, family. He had only been with the department for 4 years, and as you might expect, he's one of these cops. Everybody spoke highly of him. And now remember, I'm in the academy. I'm fuck all. I have no experience. I know nothing about life. These 2 cops, these 2 big burly dudes, right? They get up there and they start crying, talking about their friend. And I just remember, like, the fucking balls it takes for these 2 speakers, these 2 big burly dudes, to get up here in front of an academy class full of students, potential cops, right? Everything in this job is about machismo and appearances, and start crying in front of us. And I remember it was very ethereal. They were backlit by the projector. They're standing in front of us. And that clicked in my head. And I said, okay, I get it. And I remember starting in a town, my first patrol job, municipality. And I feel like a bad guest. Have you guys ever noticed sometimes when I'll ask these guests and I'm like, hey, tell me a story about the time you fucked that chicken? And they're like, I don't remember. Well, give me a good DWI arrest story. Yeah, I don't have any. Okay. All right. Thanks for coming on the show. So, I don't remember my first DWI. I feel badly. I mean, I have vague recollections, but I don't really remember it. I know I fucked it up and I was in training and got it done. I tell these students all the time, the first time you make a traffic stop, your hand's going to be shaking. You're going to be shaking. And, I yell at the students, right? Or I used to yell at the students, and they'd come into class and, like, I'm nervous. I don't know if I can do that, because I have to demonstrate the SFST in front of the instructor to demonstrate proficiency. I'm nervous. I don't know if I can do. And I started getting to the point where I'd start the class off, the 3 days. On the first day, I'd be like, I don't want to hear that you're fucking nervous. You can be nervous anywhere else but here, in this air-conditioned, carpeted, shitty carpet, but carpeted environment. Where you can be nervous is out there on the side of the interstate, 3 o'clock in the morning, DWI crash, sent a family to the hospital, father's dying, wife likely to die, 2 children badly injured, and you have the defendant standing in front of you, and he's intoxicated, and he's weebling and wobbling in the wind, and you're standing on the side of the interstate, and it's 40 degrees out, and you got EMS and FD watching you and other units, And your field training officer, your FTO, says, he hasn't done a DWI in like fucking 30 years, right? So he's like, hey, you just came out the fucking academy, right? You go and do the, and they always fuck up the letters, right? You go out there and do the SSST. Be nervous then. And always used to say, your hand's going to shake for the first traffic stop you make. I remember towards the end of my career, my hand never shook. You'd be pulling a gun out, like, police officer, don't fucking move. Let me see your hands. And, doing these building searches. You're by yourself. Sometimes you're fucked, right? You got to go by yourself. And I'd never shake. I was nervous. I was scared. I was apprehensive, but I never shook. As my career went on, I got more and more DWIs. And I just have these little stories that stand out. I remember like going to this DWI crash on the interstate where a car towing a trailer flipped. A truck towing a trailer flipped, had a bunch of equipment and it flipped. DWI driver caused it all. They're just all over the place, right? Some cars in the median. There's fucking debris everywhere. There's another car facing the opposite direction because it spun around. It's one of those cluster fucks, right? You've all been to a cluster fuck of a crash, right? And I remember going up to one of the cars, and it was on its side. It was on the passenger side, like, and it had landed on the passenger side, right? And I looked down, and I could see a couple in there. And they're like, we're scared, we're hurt. And I'm like, can you move? Are you okay? Yes, well, we're just scared, we're hurt. They're kind of like bleeding a little bit from their head. They had their seatbelts on. I'm like, take off your seatbelts, let me get you out. And I'm stupid, right? You're not supposed to move them, whatever the fuck. But they're screaming. I'm I got 11 minutes on the job, right? And I'm scared. And they're like, and I remember the console, this is an old car, right? Long time ago. And the dashboard panel had separated from the rest of the dashboard. And it was dangling from a wire. And I was like, all right, well, this thing is keeping me from like pulling them out of the car. So I remember taking out my knife. Every good cop carries a knife, right? Flicking it out. And I was going to cut the cord, the wire, whatever the fuck it was, to like remove the dashboard panel so that I could pull them out, right? And I don't know what the fuck this wire was. Maybe there's a mechanic here who could tell me. I mean, I know something about cars. I didn't think this would happen. I went to cut the wire, and there's a big spark. I'm like, holy shit. I didn't get electrocuted or anything, but I fucking gave up on that shit. I was like, oh, okay, FD will be here in a second with the jaws. But I just remember that spark, that blast, leaving a little burn mark on that knife. It was an old Smith & Wesson knife, because I had to get all the buff shit right when I first got on the job. And I remember carrying that knife around for the longest goddamn time, and it just had, I'm telling you, this fucking burn mark was like indelible. And I just remember like, always like, occasionally like you whip out the knife, right? You do something, close it up, whip it out. And every now and then I'd see that little burn mark, and I'm like, damn, that was fucked up. They were okay. The DWI, we, of course, get everyone packed up and sent off on a bus, and you got to go out there. All right, sir, come on over here. Put your feet together, heel to heel, toe to toe. Put your arms to your side, and follow the tip of my finger with your eyes. Eyes only. Don't move your head. You go out there and you do your job, right? And you're the guy for 22 minutes. And another DWI. And I remember like when I'm talking about being the guy, right? I went to this shift that was overseen by a sergeant. And I'm not going to talk too much. I know I could say whatever the fuck I want, but it's not what this is for. This sergeant was a female and got the accolades, got the advantages, had interpersonal relationships that gained benefits that I was not privy to because I don't have a vagina or tits. And that's just the way it went. Okay, fine. Had a quarter of the experience that I had at the time. In fact, I had more experience than the entire goddamn shift. And I remember constantly kind of being questioned about like my interview skills and my styles. And I remember all the accolades going to these other people. Here's the good old boy. And I'm not kidding, this other person who had less time than me was being called the experienced one, right? And I remember the first DWI I went to with him, and it was a hit and run. And I remember that feeling, right? We tracked the car down. would go inside, and I'm like, hey, how you doing? Come on out here and let me talk to you. Find out, oh, you haven't had anything to drink since your crash, right? Why'd you leave? Okay, good. Come on over here, put your feet together, heel to heel, toe to toe, put your arms to your side, follow the tip of my finger with your eyes. And I remember kind of for that 17 minutes, I know I keep lowering the time every single time, but I remember for that 17 minutes, they all had to sit there and watch me. And I was the guy. It didn't matter what they looked like. It didn't matter what race I was and what was favored nations, or it didn't, none of that shit mattered. I was the fucking guy for 17 minutes. Clickety clack, get in the fucking back. All right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to tow the car. We're going to get a summons out. We're going to file this. We're going to file that. I'm going to the jail. I'm going to the hospital. I'm sticking the guy for blood. Yep. And I was the guy. Then not so much the guy after that, unless it was the DWI. And I remember working with a neighboring agency one time. And the neighboring agency, they both ended up becoming good acquaintances. But I remember, at the first time you meet somebody, there's a little bit of trepidation, right? And you're kind of, these were bordering towns. So, there's a little bit of like territory. And you're the new face on the block. And they'd come out and they'd like, yeah, well, this is how you do it here. Well, this particular street, that ends in the 300 block, not the 400 block, which is what you called out. I'm like, okay, well, I'm not the guy. I'll shut the fuck up. But then I remember raining, pouring ass rain. And I don't know about you guys. I love working in the rain. I love inclement weather. Love working in the rain. I had the long raincoat too, right? That bitch was mine too. And pulled this guy over for running a red light, and he had coke in the car, and he was DWI. And I was patient, and I had to work through the coke. And it was weird too, right? He had the coke in a little, those little bottles that are like brown. They're tinted, so like light pollution won't ruin. What's the better way to describe it? Okay, these movies where there's like the evil witch and she has all her potions on the shelf? Those bottles, right, that are like kind of tinted brown. It's like what peroxide would come in, except it's glass. Remember, he had the coke in that. I thought that was weird. I was like, how the fuck did he get it into that? Because he had to like make a little, and it was really tiny. I'm holding up my fingers. It was maybe like 2 or 3 inches tall. So like, he must have fucking put a funnel on this tiny bottle, or like rolled up a cone of paper and then like put the coke in there so that he could like snort it. Like the ingenuity, that drug users have, but yet, they can't get insurance on their cars. Anyway, I remember I had to work through the coke and like, was it drugged driving? Was it just alcohol? Was it poly drug? More than one drug. And having to administer like some specialized tests, right? It's called a modified Romberg test. And, kind of going through my paces and eventually hooking the guy up, asking just for blood, no breath. I'm like, whoa, yeah, but I want to give breath. No, you don't really have that option, because I knew it was drug driving. And I remember the guy, who again became my friend, said to me, he goes, holy shit, that was impressive. And I felt good. And I felt like I was the guy for, that one took a long time, so I'll give it 21 minutes. You're the guy for that short amount of time, and then you're not. All right, so what is the point of all this? Well, the point of all of this is to say that DWIs were important to me, not just because I was the guy, but because I did my job. I did my job when maybe no one else wanted to. Or I did my job in the way that I saw fit, that I felt would best suit the situation, and that resulted in not just the successful arrest and prosecution of the defendant, but at the same time doing it the right way. So respecting the defendant's constitutional rights and not being an asshole, right? Like, hey, watch your head when you get in the car. And, which arm would you prefer to have the blood specimen taken from? And, oh, fuck you. Left it is, But keeping that calm, keeping that cool, and doing what it takes to get the job done. Okay, so you're not the guy. You're never going to be the guy. You're just a guy. And you're a guy. You're a guy who functions, or a gal, okay? You'll never be the gal, but you'll be a gal. You're never going to be the guy, but you'll be a guy who does his or her job and does it right. We'll let the guys and the gals fill those gaps in. They can appear in the press. They can post their Instagram pictures. TikTok cops. You want to be nauseated? Go on, look at TikTok cops. You'll throw up. You know, guys in uniform, girls in uniform, showing their fucking tits, showing their ass, dancing, you know, with their stupid fucking motivational messages, right? I don't know how departments allow this. Anyway, end of rant. Be a guy and do your fucking job. The motto of this show. DWIs are difficult. How do you get better at them? You fucking do more. You don't want to get, quote unquote, torn apart in court, right? So, what, a guy in a suit's going to scare you? But you'll go to an active shooter? Now, faithful listeners of this show will have heard some of these rants in bits and pieces before, but this is my message to you. No, you're not the fucking guy. And I'm sorry. You're never going to be the fucking guy. Nobody gives a fuck. Sit the fuck down and shut up. Go do your job. But you'll be a guy, and you'll be the reason this job exists. I'm at the game, baby. I don't have any skin in it. I'm done. So you're taking on this mantle, and you will do your job because they need us to do our job. They need you to do your job. You have to be a guy who's there, because you'll never be the guy. You'll have to be a guy who's there, who answers 911 when they call, who shows up and does his or her job and does it to the best of your abilities. Remember that burn mark on my knife? I don't have the knife anymore. I lost it. Let that be a reminder to you when you're standing there like, fuck, I do not want to fucking do this. And not even just DWIs, anything related to this job. Having the courageous conversation. Working just a little bit more with your victims. Finding this fucking guy when you know he's out there. Don't just fucking tell people the case will be suspended because there are no viable leads. Is that true? Fuck yeah, it is. Give them the blue card, right? Or whatever the color of the card that you hand out. You know, the case will be suspended card, right? That's the case that your detectives want you to give out because they're too fucking lazy to call. Tell them, hey, we'll follow up. We'll see if it matches an MO. If there are any leads, we'll contact you. Feel free to always call us if you have any questions. Feel free to call me personally. Ask for me personally. I may not be able to get to you right away, but I will eventually. Do your job. I can't do it anymore. So I need you to. Over the New Year's break, I had been about 5 months out of the job, removed. I miss the job. Not the bad stuff, but I miss a lot of the good stuff. I miss all the stuff I just said. You know, finding the guy. I was a good investigator. I wasn't a detective, but I was a good investigator. And I used the law to my advantage. You know, subpoenas and finding people, and looking people up. Yeah, it was good. So I miss it. But I don't have to do it anymore. And it's fucking great. I'm going to say whatever I want. Anyway, over the New Year's break, where I had been off the job for about 5 months, my family and I decided to take a trip to the middle of fucking nowhere in Oklahoma to get an Airbnb. It was a nice getaway, you know, no worries about schooling or the kids were with us. I mean, the kids' schooling or work or any of that, you know, just practically no internet. I mean, it was an Airbnb, but it was nice, right? Up there in the mountains where the, you know, like how they say, like, oh, the atmosphere is thinner up there, so you can get drunk more quickly. Well, I had my fucking kids with me, so I couldn't drink. What the fuck was the point of going up into the mountains? All right, anyway. And I remember It was like second or third day there. And, just to give you an idea how remote this fucking place is, right? So, someone who shall remain nameless, who I'm married to, forgot something very important. Contact lens solution. There's no fucking substitute for that, baby. If I was like out of lube or something, I could at least, but, we're out of contact lens solution. No substitution for that. Right? Not that we use the lube during the fucking vacation. All right. Yeah. So it's like, you gotta go out to town. And I mean, literally, like, this is like some fucking Oregon Trail shit. You gotta go out to town and go get this thing. And for those who aren't too familiar, I mean, when we're talking about like rural, middle of the fucking nowhere America, there's always one thing you could depend on: a dollar store. Whether it's Dollar General or Dollar Tree or Dollar whatever the fuck, a dollar store. So I'm literally driving 30 minutes away from the Airbnb, down the fucking mountain and over the fucking, winding through ranges. I think I drove through a fucking redwood tree, a squirrel fucking hitched a ride. He was like standing out on the side of the road, like sticking his thumb out, but also kind of like lifting the leg of his pants up, like, hey, baby, like, ass, gas, or grass. No one rides for free. I mean, just like wilderness, nowhere, right? So I'm driving out there and like, if I can get to the Family Dollar, get what I needed. Ooh, marshmallows, like, I fucking came all this way out here. I might as well get some marshmallows. And I'm parked in the parking lot, and I'm about to pull out. And I see this car coming towards me. And I noticed it was in the right-hand lane. So I was like, it's pretty far, and he's not going too fast. But I'll wait. I'm in no rush. So I don't pull out in front of him, and he's got to slow down. I don't want to be a dick. I'm not from here. I don't want to get fucking lynched. And when he passes me, I notice he's in the left lane now. In cop speak, that's inside, outside lane. Inside means for you civilians, that's left lane. Outside lane means right lane. So he's now in the inside lane. I'm like, did he change lanes? I didn't see a turn signal. Just throwaway thought in the back of my head. And these are the things you think about. You think like, I'm off the job, right? I don't have to fucking do this no more. But your brain is still kind of like fucking working that way, right? And then as he passes me, I notice two things. His left brake lamp is out. I don't know if that's an offense in Oklahoma. It is in Texas. And then I can hear a scraping. And any cop who's done any time on the road knows immediately what that sound is. He's driving on the rim. It's illegal in Texas. I'm sure it's illegal in Oklahoma. And as soon as I hear that, I go, DWI. So I pull out onto the road. I'm driving a rental vehicle, bearing in mind. And I start following this guy. And I'm like, okay, let me do my civic duty. And I call 911. And when the operator finally picks up, this is Left Elbow County, Oklahoma. She's like, 911, what's your emergency? I'm like, I'm following this vehicle. And you can hear the rim scraping, right? I'm like, he's definitely intoxicated. By this point, now he's like driving left of center, and he's driving into opposing lanes. He's going to hit a car. He's going to kill somebody. And I'm explaining all this to them, and she's like, well, we'll broadcast it. We'll put, she said, we'll put it out, which means they will broadcast the information as a general broadcast. So on the radio, it's like, unit standby for reckless driver, copy reckless driver. And then they'll put out the information, and then like you don't have to take it. It's not dispatched to a particular unit. It's not a call. It's kind of like a, hey, be on the lookout. BOLO. You've heard that term before, right? I'm like, you're going to put it out. I'm like, I need a unit. Do you have any units close? And now I'm kind of like talking to her like a cop, but I who the fuck am I, right? Well, and she's looking on her computer-aided dispatch, her CAD, right? She's like, oh, yeah, well, there's one. I'm like, okay, I don't care where they are. I need them to come to where I am. We're now, and he's turned now, right? And he's turned away from my route where I was going. So imagine this. I went south to come into the town, and then I'm heading north back into, like the Airbnb, right? But now this guy's fucking turning west. I'm like, we're west on highway, whatever the fuck. She's like, well, we'll put it out, sir. Okay. Do you want me to keep following him and update you with the location? No, sir. We'll put it out. You can hang up. I'm like, hang up? I'm like, ma'am, do you understand he's going to kill somebody? She's like, we understand, sir. Like, basically, like, trying to get me off the fucking phone, right? She's like, oh, we'll put it out, we'll put it out, we'll put it out, we'll put it out. And I remember I go, okay, you want me to hang up, right? Like, he's driving into opposing lanes, into oncoming traffic. You want me to hang up? He's going to murder somebody. You want me to hang up, right? Just kind of like holding her feet to the fire. She's like, yes, sir, you can hang up. Kind of like being a dick now. Like, she's like, yeah, dick, you can hang up. I'm like, okay. So I hung up. And I'm still following this guy, right? You can still hear the fucking smoking and the fucking scratching, right? And then I slowed down and I U-turned. And I was like, all right, I'll head back to the Airbnb. Listeners, tell me why I loudly shouted in this Jeep Grand Cherokee that I rented, motherfucker. Made another U-turn, went back after this guy. Now I'm doing 95, right, to catch up to the guy. Why? Is it the accolade? Is it because I'm such a hero and I just want the safety? Who the fuck am I, right? I have no gun. I have no shield. I have no power. I have no status. I'm nobody. We're in the middle of fucking nowhere. For all I know, this guy's, leading me back to his, clan meeting. They're like, oh my God, it's one of them Chinamen, Why? It's not because I'm, so noble and committed to DWI enforcement. I don't have a fucking car. I mean, a patrol unit. I'm not getting any help. I was told by the fucking cops, turn around, go away, drive away. So as I'm following him again now, I see the sign on the right side, and it says, you're now leaving left elbow, and you're entering right ankle county. And I'm like, maybe this will work. So I pick up the phone again, 911. And you can tell it's like a different hillbilly, like 911, what's, left elbow county, or where did I say we are? Right ankle county. I'm like, okay, now I start talking to her like she's my dispatcher. And I'm like, westbound on Route 1 behind Oklahoma license plate, 123456. It's a whatever color, Chevy 1500, and it's sparking possible DWI driving into oncoming lanes. Oh my God. You've heard me talk about this, right? I hate most dispatchers. Most dispatchers are lazy fucks. God, when you get a good dispatcher. She's like, I got you, hun. And she starts triangulating my fucking phone position. She's like, I know exactly. And you can hear her on the other side. She's like, Delta 301, Delta 302, be en route. So she's fucking on it. And I'm like, we're at speeds of 40. And it's so loud, the rim, that she can hear on the phone. I was like, ma'am, do you hear that? She's like, yeah, I can hear it, hon. And, speeds of 40. Now we're headed up to 50, back down to 30. And he's driving into oncoming lanes. He just passed the vehicle. The vehicle had to swerve out of the way to avoid a collision. And, she's right there with me. And she's like, and I'm like, I'm driving past this street. I don't know where the fuck I am. I'm trying to follow on the map, on Waze. It's like, I got you, hun. She's like, you're coming up into the town. Now, I know the town, and I'm sure this is an active DWI since it happened on New Year's Eve, so I'm not going to say the town. But you're coming up to the town of Bohickaboo. And there's one officer on duty, which I'm like, great. Now you're talking my language. I need a city cop. Hold on. So we come into this town. She's like, you're coming up to him. And I'm like, I see him. This motherfucker starts drifting to the right. And I'm like, he's going to fucking hit that car. Hit the squad. And I'm like, tell that officer to turn on his lights. He's going to hit him. And this fucking suspect just narrowly misses the cop. Cop pulls in behind him, lights him up, pulls into a side street, and gets out of the car. Listeners, please tell me what the fuck would compel me to do this. I pull up next to the cop on his driver's side like I'm a patrol unit, like I'm an RMP. Hit my high beams, because I have no overheads, and I get out. And he kind of looks at me, and I remember this cop is really tall. White guy. I say old, he's my age. Really tall. I mean, 6'4", huge. And he looks at me, and I look at him. I don't know what to say. So I hold up my hands, and I go, I used to be on the job. I don't know what to say. back in the day, I could go, police officer, I'm on the job. Here's my shield. Or I literally say, I'm quoting myself. I go, I used to be on the job. He looks at me and I'm like, I called SFST instructor. I don't know why. That's all I can muster. He goes, oh, okay, all right. So he's walking up to the guy, right? And this guy just spills out of the car. And it's so gross. You can tell he shit himself and he pissed himself. And he's like stumbling. He's fucking shit-faced. Car's smoking because of the rim, right? And he's doing his thing. He's like, all right. And he puts on his gloves, searches him, and puts him in the car. You know, he's too intoxicated for SFSTs. And he comes over to me. He starts talking to me. I remember he was really nice. And I gave him my information. I was like, I used to be on the job. He's like, oh, okay. I really appreciate you calling. I'm from New York, and I'm really used to cold weather. You know, I'm the guy who doesn't wear a jacket or wear short sleeves. And they're like, oh, you fucking crazy, you know. So cold weather's never bothered me. You tell me, guys. Was it the altitude? Was it being off the job? Was it being a fucking loser? I was shaking like a fucking maraca. And he's talking to me and he's like, what's your middle name and your date of birth? And can I see it? I don't know. I don't know what it was. And I was like, oh my God, am I a rookie? Has it all cycled back? You know, like I went full circle. Like you never go full rookie. You know, like I went all the way back to, you know, that first traffic stop. And now that county's SO, their sheriffs, and you know who conveniently fucking decided to join us, OSP, you know, Oklahoma State Police. They're showing up, and I'm like, all right, that's my fucking cue, and I get in my car and I drive away. So why do I tell this story? Well, it was a funny story. It's kind of what this podcast was supposed to be about. Other guests, I'm looking at you who never have any stories when I interview you. But for 4 minutes, I was the guy again. I hope you enjoyed listening and sitting down with me. Next week I'll have a guest back on, and you'll really enjoy it. In the meantime, hit us up if you have any questions. Head to the website and become a Bob. And if you have any critiques or comments, make sure to put them down below, and I will never look at them. Thanks so much, and stay safe out there. And remember, do your job.